I knew I wanted to be in the Navy from the time I was a little kid. I grew up on the water. Boats have always been in my background. I was in high school, I was 17 years old, and I sure didn't want to miss that war. So I graduated from Lyons Township High School on a Sunday afternoon. 8 o'clock the next morning, I was at the Navy Recruiting Center, downtown Chicago, and I was in the Navy quickly. I went to Great Lakes Naval Training Center for my basic training, and the first day was my rude awakening. I was an only child and was used to my privacy. There ain't no privacy at Great Lakes Naval Training Center. There were about 50 of us. We all got in a room, and each one of us had a box in front of us. And they said you could keep your wallet, your watch, your pen and pencil, your glasses, take everything else off. So there we were, about 40 or 50 of us standing there stark naked with a bunch of women walking back and forth. That was my introduction to the United States Navy. Well, I went through basic training, and I was very fortunate. Our company commander, who was the chief petty officer, called me in the first day, and he said, "Flock, I see by your records that you had 3 years of junior ROTC." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "It also says that you were a payroll clerk." I had the title of payroll clerk at Western Electric. I worked as a payroll clerk for 2 months. All I ever did was run an IBM machine. But he liked these credentials. He said, "You're the company clerk." This didn't make any sense to me until I got to be a company clerk. That's the best job there is in basic training in the Navy, because anytime they wanted to do something that I didn't want to do, I'd just say, "I've got too much paperwork." Well, we finished basic training, and this was wartime secrecy. You did not know what was going on, where you were going, what you were going to do. So we left Great Lakes and on a train, 6 o'clock one morning, and this goofy train was headed north. No train ever headed north out of Great Lakes. You can imagine the speculation. Were we going to Alaska? Were we going to the North Pole? We didn't know. About 3 hours later, they said, "Everybody off." So we all got off the train and looked around, didn't know where we were. A chief petty officer came up and said, "I'm going to get you guys settled in. I know you've got a lot of questions. Where are you? You're at Madison, Wisconsin. You're going to be in radio school at the University of Wisconsin." And the other good news is that in Wisconsin you can drink beer at 18 years old. Now I said, now for the bad news. He said, "There are 500 sailors here, and the Navy requires you to entertain 5,000 co-eds." That was our life at Madison, Wisconsin. We finished our basic radio training, which takes a long time because you have to learn international Morse code at 25 words a minimum. That's pretty fast copying Morse code to be of value to the fleet ships. While we were at Wisconsin, we had some regular Navy personnel on staff, and they all gave us the same recommendation. When you go to sea, if you ever have a choice, get on a destroyer. They are the best ships to be on for a Navy sailor, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Okay, so after we finished at the University of Wisconsin, we went to the West Coast, shipped out to Pearl Harbor, ended up at Leyte Gulf. And that's, fortunately, because of my clerical experience, I was in the ship's office that assigned sailors to ships. We had a great commanding officer. He said, "If you find a ship you want to get on, just pick your card out and they'll call you. Right place at the right time again." So a destroyer came up, I pulled my card, ended up on the USS Amman. This is an illustration of the Amman, and this kind of gives you a better idea than any photograph would of what a destroyer looks like. When you spend over a year on one ship, you get to know it quite well. A destroyer is a ship that's 325 feet long, 35 feet wide. It's nothing but guns. In this particular picture, this is my ship, the USS Amman. It was a Fletcher-class destroyer. This was the most popular destroyer in World War II. It carried five 5-inch guns. You can see them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We carried 10 18-foot long, 21-inch torpedoes. We had 40 millimeter guns sprinkled all over the ship. We had a lot of serious times on it, but we also had a lot of fun. You're living pretty close together. The good things about a destroyer, destroyer's flank speed is about 42 miles an hour. To go 42 miles an hour, you used all the fresh water that you could possibly make. When we were going at flank speed, there was nothing in the way of water except to brush your teeth in the drinking fountain. The rest of the time, we had all the hot water, fresh water that we wanted. We had hot showers all the time. It was not a bad place. We all had a clean bunk where we kept our stuff. We all had lockers to keep it in. We were never in the mud any place, except once. And trying to think of other things. The crew slept in this area. There was also crew that slept up in this area. From here to here was the power plant. That was the boiler systems and the engine room. And they required that much. These are the smokestacks. Smokestacks on a destroyer are not what you normally think of as smoke. During the day, you never let any smoke out. You kept the smoke in the smokestacks. During the night, they would announce, "We're ready to blow stacks." That's where the term "blow your stacks" comes from. You blow the stacks at night. Same way with the guns, the 5-inch guns. They had 2 or 3 different kind of ammunition shells. One was night shells, day shells. Day shells were smokeless. Night shells were flashless. So they thought of everything. Below these guns was the mechanism that made the guns work. This is where they stored the powder and the shells. And the gun crews would call for what kind of powder, what kind of ammunition they wanted. The guns were, the 5 guns were all controlled from this unit right here. This is the fighter director. And it was the fighter director operators that stayed in this little shell here, and they were the ones who would direct the firing. In the